I think a lot of our community, career counseling and admissions, not sure of what exactly their role is. Most of them feel like it's just pushing papers around.
We as counselors can be trajectory changers and destiny benders and gate openers and mobility brokers. There are 54 kids. They all went to institutions across those 6 countries on full or near full scholarships. For me, it is helping a kid find a scholarship.
Why are you building an organization like the Second Chance?
Well, why are the second chances? Any kid that you send to us know that they will be taken care of by the cohort, by a counselor, by a team. They will have a lot of support and hopefully you then get a second chance.
Hi, I'm Ankur. I'm so excited to have Joan with me. Joan Liu is a world-renowned career counselor. As someone who has worked in the field of career counseling for last 15 years, traveled to about 1,000 plus institutions in across 40 plus countries. Joan is one of those few change makers that I have been inspired by. I have personally known Joan since 2016, and I could really see the power that Joan brings to this profession in 2018 with the work she did with the Nepal Justice League in getting a lot of Nepali students a second chance at higher education in US. And now, right now, she is running her own organization called the Second Chance, which is doing some inspiring work and educating all of us around the world of what a power of a career counselor can be than just somebody who sends across applications to universities. So I'm so excited that to have Joan here with us at Masters Union. Thank you so much, Joan, for making it all the way from Singapore today at our campus in Masters Union. We are so excited to have you here with us. First of all, I want to welcome you to our campus, to our community. We are looking forward to spending some quality time with you, and I hope the next 3 days that you spend with our community are also going to be memorable and useful for you.
Thank you.
So let's start with the first question that I have for you as somebody who has watched your work from afar and been inspired by you. I have met, as I said, thousands of career counselors in across 40 plus countries, and there are only few handful of career counselors that I really believe are now changing the definition of career counseling as a profession and being the change makers. And you are definitely one of those change makers for me who is doing some fantastic work. But let's start from the beginning. How did you end up being a career counselor in the first place? What was your first role ever when you were told that you are going to be a career counselor, or was it by chance, or was it by choice, or is it like what made you come here?
It's a little bit by chance and by choice. So I was teaching in New York City. I had wanted to be a teacher ever since I was in high school. I had a fantastic English teacher. So I went to university, majored in English, and then I wanted to teach high school. So I was teaching at actually a very famous school in New York City called the Bronx High School of Science.
Yeah, yeah.
It's famous because it has produced more Nobel Prize winners in the world than any other high school in the world.
Wonderful. Wow. And you were teaching English there?
I was teaching English there, and every single child was smarter than I was. And so it's a little bit intimidating. But I, in my third year there, was asked to be what was called a college mentor. So they removed one English class and gave me 50 students.
Okay.
To do college mentoring, university advising. I was asked because there was a shortage of people and because it was known that in, I think, the English department, you could write recommendations.
That is so true. Yeah.
So I think that it was a matter of both chance and serendipity. I'd always been interested in the college process because I'm from Taiwan.
Yeah.
My parents are from Taiwan.
Yeah.
They immigrated to the United States. They immigrated to the US for the sole purpose of education. So growing up, there was always this sort of implicit messaging that university is very important. I knew that the college process was important. And so I said yes to that. And that's how I ended up getting into college counseling. I also said yes because this is a little bit crazy. If you said yes to being a college counselor, you could have your own space in the school.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was a roaming teacher, and I would
Okay.
carry, at that point, you had to copy everything. Everything was on paper.
Okay.
So I would carry 170 homeworks to all the
Wow.
different classes that I was teaching. And one of the great perks of being a college counselor was you got to have your own space.
Yeah.
And you got to meet kids in that space,
Yeah.
in a cubicled area
And with
in
lovely
the basement
flats.
of the school.
Yeah.
So I kind of fell into college counseling, but I always very much thought I was going to be a teacher the very first day of my career, and that I was going to leave teaching the last day of my career. I thought I was going to be a career teacher. I think there are aspects of college counseling that involve teaching, but they kind of intersect, they cross. But there are different skill sets, I think, to
Absolutely.
both.
So from English teaching to career counseling. So at that point of time in your career, you were teaching and also being a career
I
counselor.
was being a career counselor, and I didn't know what it meant because there was no
Absolutely, because there was no
professional development.
professional.
I was at a public school. I didn't even know that there were such things as a conference. When universities would come to the school, I didn't know that I could actually attend those and learn about universities. Like, I had no idea what a university visit was.
Yeah,
Can you imagine? I'm sitting in a high school and a university comes and visits, and I don't really know that that's part of what I could do because I didn't actually know what the role was.
yeah,
So at that time, I thought the role of a college counselor was simply to sign off on things. So I thought that at the time that my role was mainly signing off,
signing off.
being the school official to kind of verify documentation, and then also, quite frankly, to send things on time. So I had no idea that college counseling could be more until actually I went overseas. So in 2005, I got a job in Turkey,
Yeah,
in Istanbul, because I was looking to go overseas and to kind of see how I was really curious about other paradigms of looking at the world. And I happened to get a job in Turkey at a really strong nationally ranked high school, a Turkish school run by the Turkish Ministry of Education. I'm explaining this because I think it's really important to know that the school that I was at had Turkish kids, Turkish faculty, everybody spoke Turkish, except for two departments, the English department and my department, which was the Overseas College Guidance Department. And when I was there, I got a chance to see what it would look like for a Turkish student to want to go overseas and study in a country that's not their own, in a language that's not their own, because they want not only an international education, but global social, educational, and economic opportunity. So when I went to Turkey, I also had some very good mentors who were doing this for a living.
mm-hmm.
And they showed me that being a college counselor was more than signing off on papers. It was also being an advocate, like really writing down the context of what it means for a Turkish student to apply to the United States. What does it mean that we're running something called the Turkish Lycée? What does that mean?
Yeah,
So that when our counterparts at American institutions would read, they would understand, oh, well, this is what the curriculum is. And also some standards, right? Because some countries are deflationary
yeah,
and other countries are
absolutely,
inflationary.
absolutely.
So explaining the context. So I got a real education in showing a context against a particular applicant and highlighting that applicant against their background. And then also, I was given an education in really understanding individual institutions. They would come to my school, I would sit in on an hour of them speaking to students, and I got a sense of all the different individual institutions that were coming from the United States and the UK and Canada at the time, because those were the countries that came to visit Turkey. Then the other thing that I learned was financial aid,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah,
has played a really large part of my career because there were lots of Turkish students who were applying to the United States because they couldn't afford local education, but they knew that the United States had and could offer a full scholarship. A really wonderful team, Larry Turns and Osman Oakman, they were my bosses at the time, and they still are
okay,
at the coach school,
okay,
helped me understand all the nuances of what it means for a student to apply to a country that's not their own and apply for financial aid so that all the financial aid barriers are removed for them to be able to access higher
nice.
education.
So you went there in 2005, and
Mhm.
then you worked there till which
I
year?
actually only worked there 1 year,
Okay,
but that 1 year changed my entire career.
absolutely. And what happened after that?
After that, I went to a series of different schools. Like I went back to the United States for a while. I worked at a school in New Jersey, a private independent institution, a smaller high school, a private high school. So I kind of got a sense of sort of public and private in the United States. And then I went back to Turkey. I was recruited back to Turkey to build an office at a young school. Then I went to England for a while. I worked at an international school in England. And then my last position, I worked at a school called the United World Colleges,
Yeah, yeah.
the Singapore
UWC.
branch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you left teaching as a teacher, like you stopped teaching English and you became a full-time career counselor, or you still continue to teach English?
So I'm so glad you asked about this. I had applied for a sabbatical. They give you 1 year off.
Yeah, 1 year off your regular work.
And I was denied that sabbatical.
Okay,
So I couldn't go back and teach.
okay, Okay.
So I ended up choosing to do
Career
college
counseling.
counseling. And I wasn't so sure of that choice because I didn't feel there's an aspect of college counseling that involves predictive ability.
Hmm.
You know, a student will bring you a list of schools, or you will hand a student a list of schools. You kind of have to gauge what their chances are to some extent.
Yeah.
And I thought that that was the hardest part of the job. And I didn't ever know that I could get that right. And so for that reason, I didn't think I was going to ever be a very strong college counselor.
Okay.
That was the hardest part of the job for me, was when I went to Turkey and a kid would come up and say, well, what do you think my chances are at this school? I would have no idea. I just would have no idea. And then I didn't feel like I could guide that student definitively towards optimizing their chances. That aspect of the position was very hard for me. But then I learned that after a while, with some experience, you start to understand and gain an intuition for what is required for example, a very highly selective school, or what is required for a school that is perhaps less selective, but that has a very selective engineering program.
Yeah. I just want to spend some time here. So, with experience, you got to learn about these kind, how to answer these kind of questions, how to help kids, if he is a good fit for that college or XYZ college. And if I'm not wrong in assuming, these were all really bright kids. I mean, you said you were at some of the top schools.
Yeah, these were really, really bright students.
And going to all the, I mean, top institutions around the world. I'm assuming.
Selective institutions.
Selective
Yeah.
institutions. So, and then we left off at UWC in Singapore, and then you went to UWC in Singapore for how long you were there in UWC?
I was there for 9 years.
Oh, wonderful. So I think 9 years is a long time. And what was inspiring about your work at UWC?
UWC was a great school for me in that I was very mission aligned with the school. And then whilst I was at the school, I started to work outside of the school in the industry. So for a while, I did some volunteer work for an organization that you and I both belong to,
Yeah.
which is the International
International
Association
Association.
of College Admission Counseling. As you know, in 2018, that incident that happened in the
Yeah.
United States, where a US institution had revoked scholarships from about 60 Nepali students, I got a chance to volunteer for that as well and mobilize kind of a movement around that.
And that is exactly the point that, I took notice of your work. And yes, I know you did in 2017, I think you were heading the scholars program at International ACAC. You gave in access to International ACAC conference to a lot of fantastic people. I mean, I still am in touch with many of them and inspired by their work. And that's when 2017 I got to know about you and the work that you did. And then 2018, especially the case with the Nepali students and the US institution that denied them scholarship after giving them. So, what was going in your head when that news flashed in front of you, or so you got to read that news that these 62 Nepali kids have been denied scholarships and has happened? What made you? What was the first thought in your head, and why did you invest so much of your energy in? I mean, you got all of us together. So, where was this? I mean, there has to be some starting point to that energy. What was it that triggered that emotion in you?
Well, I've always been interested in students who have to overcome a lot to access higher education. That's probably my own story that's informing that. You know, both of my parents were the first in their families to go to college. Both of them got a scholarship to go to college. By college, I mean university. And I'm the beneficiary of that. So I went to a college ready, I was living in a college ready household, basically. I have always been interested in financial aid. So all the different places that I talked about, like when I went to England, I got involved in the Sutton Trust, which is helping the kind of poorest kids in England try to get to the United States on a full scholarship. And then when I was in Turkey, I was trying to build an office that could support kids who wanted to apply for financial aid in the US. Then when I was at United World College, same thing. Like we had a lot of students from emerging and developing countries come on scholarship to UWC. And so I had a history.
Yeah.
I had a history of learning about financial aid and scholarships. And I'm kind of obsessed with this area of our industry. You know, there are some people who are obsessed with or can really help college athletes, right?
Yeah.
That's their thing.
That's
or
their thing.
there are people in the industry who are really good at helping prospective medics. I mean, for me, it is helping a kid find a scholarship or be competitive for a scholarship, optimizing their chances, having them go to college, having them access that part, that transition between high school and university, because I think that changes a family's trajectory.
It is.
So when that thing came along with Nepal, I had been to Nepal because I had, as you said, I was working on bringing teachers to International ACAC. The Education USA office in Nepal had nominated 3 scholars to the International ACAC Scholars Program. That year, I was in Nepal because I was checking to make sure how were scholars doing. Was the work that we were doing at International ACAC translating into an impact on the ground? Selina Mala, who's an Education USA advisor, posted that this was going on in her country. I felt close.
Yeah.
And also, a scholar had called me and said, "This happened to one of my students.
Wow.
What do you think?"
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I just offered help. I just said, "Oh, here are some resources." But then I started finding myself getting involved, and then I started feeling like I could help solve the situation. And it was kind of organic.
Yeah.
I kind of almost fell into it. And then once I was in it, more and more people started to galvanize. Like you yourself, you were the first person who came forward and said, "Hey, we'll offer a scholarship.
Yeah.
We still have seats."
Yeah.
So then once there was momentum, suddenly there was a team. It kind of came together organically of 8 women. We call ourselves the Nepal Justice League.
Yeah, Nepal Justice League.
And we kind of galvanized some other folks. Then 30 more counselors came on board. And then we started to create an ad hoc system. We started to find students, vet students. My brother told me to get Zoom. We started to work with the kids remotely. And then we started to leverage our networks, go on these big social media campaigns, Twitter drops. We had all the kids Twitter to Eric Hoover at the Chronicle of Higher Education one day. Then he wrote a series of 8 stories about this.
Yeah, I remember that.
And that started to amplify the kids and their stories.
Yeah.
Until he got involved, people were talking about the institution and what it had done, and not the students and what the impact was on the kids. And for me, I wanted to get involved because I thought if we don't get involved, it's one more generation before these kids, we can solve this.
Yeah.
And that one more generation could be me, right? If my parents hadn't gotten a scholarship, then I would be the first in my family to be trying to break the barrier of going to university. And university is still very important. It's a credential. It's seen as a legitimizer of who you are. And so at this moment in time, you need university. You need that credential. And I thought these kids are really bright kids. They have tried and been very courageous to apply to an institution that's not in their own country. They want to go overseas. Let's try and help them do that. And so that's how we ended up getting involved. And the admissions community, I mean, if you're in the admissions community and you are listening, those kids graduated 2 years ago.
Wow.
And they went to 6 different countries. There were 54 kids. They all went to institutions across those 6 countries on full or near full scholarships. And they all graduated and are now either in graduate school or in industry.
Wonderful.
And so the impact has been enormous. So we have one student, for example, his name is Rupesh, and he was top in the country in Nepal. He had gotten a scholarship that he had turned down in Nepal. He'd gotten the full scholarship at this US institution. That was his last chance. And then he ended up getting picked up by Robert Morris University. Wendy Beckmeyer, who was the dean at the time, saw an article that Eric Hoover wrote. He went to Robert Morris. He's now a software engineer. He's now working in Virginia at BlackRock.
Wow.
As a software engineer. And he is helping his younger brother go through college.
Wonderful. See the impact.
The impact has been enormous. And his younger brother, we actually worked at running Second Chance. I think that what I learned in that was that we as counselors can be trajectory changers and destiny benders and gate openers and mobility brokers. We can help kids cross borders.
Absolutely.
And we can also end poverty cycles. So I think that that's the transformative power of education.
Of education.
And when you were talking to me this morning about Masters Union and the juxtaposition and the intersection of the theory and the skills and the practical aspect of doing something and not just learning about it, like that was really transformative for me to hear.
The career counselor is such an important person in a student's life, and he or she is not just a paper pusher or to sign off on things. I mean, people in the career counseling community can actually transform life. I saw one of your TED Talks on the power of bystanders, where you talk about your own personal family and how it transformed. I mean, your dad got a scholarship, but the actual recipient was you, who really could benefit from that scholarship. And I think that lived experience of your own has really transformed so many different lives in your own way, in your own work. So thank you so much for doing that and transforming and inspiring us. I think a lot of our community, career counseling and admissions, not sure of what exactly their role is. And most of them feel like it's just pushing papers around and just filling a class up and then that's about it and then move on to next year. But having this vision and this understanding that our role as career counselors or admissions officer has a much larger impact on people around us. Thank you for being that source of light for all of us. You also took a new path, I mean, with Second Chance, and now I know you are running your own organization. So tell us a bit about what transpired post Nepal.
Post Nepal, we had kids write in. You know, they would find me at UWC. They would write into the school and ask if I could help them because we had been in the press, you know,
Yeah.
and so they knew that we had helped kids in a game over space, let's call it, right? Because after April 1st, I mean, I think part of what was special about what we did is we did this after people thought the admission cycle, well, the admission cycle
Yeah,
was
it was
over.
all
It was
over.
over.
It was over for all.
And so this
contractors.
is technically a space that people aren't working in. It feels like the door is already closed. You know, we had kids coming to us asking us for help. And then after a couple of years, I thought, well, what if we could create a new paradigm for admissions? Because right now, the paradigm in admissions is let's get the kids earlier.
Yeah.
Let's get them in
Yeah.
ninth grade, eighth grade,
Yeah,
seventh
yeah,
grade.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Same here in India.
I would love for us to have a late, almost emergency room mechanism
Mhm.
so that we don't leave talent on the table.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of
Absolutely.
kids who apply to the United States who find themselves without a financially viable offer by April 1st. We want to support that population. We're small right now, so we help.
And that's why it's called Second Chance.
Second Chance. It's called Second Chance. So we want to give kids a second chance at higher education. We will select a cohort of kids each year, help them find another higher ed institution after April 1st with a full or near full scholarship. The larger mission here is to try to create a space that we haven't had before in admissions.
Mhm.
So we haven't had a sort of post April 1st space in
Absolutely.
admissions.
It's like, gates are shut.
Right, you have to take a gap year.
gap
You got to
year.
start all over
Yeah,
again.
all
It's
over again.
cyclical. We want a post April 1st space for kids to still have opportunity. That's what we're trying to do. And so it's called Second Chance at Higher Education.
And so the Second Chance at higher education, you work with kids in specific part of the world, or they can
No,
apply from anywhere?
They can apply from anywhere. You just have to be, in general, you have to be high achieving, low income, and have impact in your community. Like be a community member or a leader or care about service, care about other people.
How does it work? I mean, actually, if I'm a
Yes.
kid in India and I'm looking at probably scholarships, do I go to your website or do I?
You go to the website. Our website is secondchance.global. Underneath the website, you can see that there's a part for nominators. We would prefer for students to be nominated by the school or by their college counselor, or so you need to identify a nominator. And then once we get all the nominations, we generally send out the applications to the students.
The best way to approach your organization is have to have a reference from a career counselor.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to. By the time we start this year cycle, we will have a mechanism for kids to also apply
Okay.
separately, and kids have applied separately. But I really feel like for a kid to make it, they have to have the support of their community. They have to have the support of us. It's a we
Yeah.
situation. It's not a just you situation, you know? And so we work with the school really closely to make sure that we have all the materials and the transcripts and that sort of thing. We can move really fast. So it's a kind of joint effort. It's
Joint
a
effort.
partnership between ourselves and a nominator and the student. Any kid that you send to us, know that they will be taken care of by the cohort, by a counselor, by a team. Like they will have a lot of support and
Absolutely.
hopefully then get a second chance.
Just to close off on the loop on the UWC. So you have now left UWC. You could have been at any top school in the world. I mean, your experience right from New York to Turkey to England to now UWC for 9 years with Singapore. But you left all that and you came into set up the Second Chance. Just want to touch upon some of the challenges probably that you have in your work.
There are many challenges.
Yeah.
And those challenges are everything from construction of the team to who you listen to, the advice that you take, the guidance that you get, building a board, capital, resources.
Absolutely.
There are some founders who earn millions of dollars and then they launch a foundation.
Yeah.
I'm not in that space.
Yeah.
You know, I come from 25 years of doing high school work. So that is also a challenge. Fundraising is a challenge. Convincing institutions to look at students after April 1st and also be willing to consider them for a full scholarship, that is also a challenge. So partnerships are a challenge, team is a challenge, leadership is a challenge. I did not know. I mean, I kind of knew, but I didn't know that you kind of needed to be a triumvirate. Like you needed to be an entrepreneur and a leader, and a team builder and an optimist. You needed a sort of a whole set of skills, and I don't have all those skills. I think what's been wonderful is that the team has complementarity. You're trying to create really robust processes like selection processes, nomination processes, vetting pipelines. You're trying to check for fraud. You're trying to help students understand visa processes. You're also trying to help people understand what it is to step onto an airplane for the first time.
Yeah.
So there's student challenges, there are partnership persuasion challenges, there's leadership challenges for me, there's resource challenges because of course you need capital and you need resources to run things. There's just a host of things, logos, branding, websites. I mean, the list goes on, right? And then it's also kind of like, what's your priority? What are you focusing on today? Right now, we're mainly a volunteer-based organization, so that comes with its own challenges too.
Absolutely.
Volunteer support. I mean, thank God our team has extreme volunteers on it, but running volunteers or managing volunteers is its own skill set. And I think that my work with International ACAC and the opportunities that International ACAC has for volunteering help prepare me for this.
The why is very important.
Mhm.
You said the why is very important, or why you are going to set up. Why not Joan Liu individually could have continued contributing to maybe 30 students a year or 40 students a year and helping them find access? Why are you building an organization like the Second Chance? What is it that motivates you, and what is it that uh, that inspires you to take on these challenges and build this organization? Why? What is the why of the Second Chance?
The why of the Second Chance is that there's a lot of talent that I don't want to leave behind
Mm-hmm.
that can make a huge contribution in your life, in my life. The why is the talent that the kids can bring to all of us.
Yeah.
And the reason why I do it is because I feel that I think everybody has a unique sort of skill set. And for me, I feel like there was a reason why this came into my life. Like this crisis came into my life 6 years ago. Like there's a reason why I'm supposed to be still working at this. There's a reason why kids came year on year. It was almost as if the universe was saying, you should go ahead and do this.
Yeah.
And so I just listened to that. Many people have said to me, well, why don't you just do this during the regular school year?
Yeah.
Like just do what other organizations do, because this is such a hard space, and it is. It's like backbreaking work for 6 to 8 weeks. We're running like crazy. The volume and velocity, there's can be very few mistakes that can be made. We're running basically 9 months in 6 to 8 weeks. And we're working in a very, very compressed, high stakes space. And it's stressful.
Yeah, it is.
People have said, well, why don't you just do this during the course of the school year? And I think the reason why we don't is because we're the only ones right now in the space of after April 1st that I'm aware of.
That is what my question was also. Why only this space? I mean, why
Yeah,
not
it's a
the regular-
unique space, and it's a space that has potential. And I think our message to the world is there can be an emergency room for higher education. You can get last minute goods. You can get last minute healthcare, right? You can get last minute employee benefits in the United States. You
Yeah.
can get last minute housing. Why can't we get last minute education? This is like one of the most important social goods in the world. Why can't we get it at the last minute?
Yeah.
So because we can do it, I suppose I feel like we should and can do it. It's something that we can give the world and that we have a unique preparation for, if you will,
Yeah.
because nothing taught us more about the post-April 1st space than the 2018 shenanigan
Yeah.
that caused 60 Nepali kids to kind of wonder about whether or not they would have a future.
My last question about the Second Chance would be, what can we do as outsiders to help you? What is it that you would request for from the world? And there is, I mean, our audience is, this is going to go around the world. You can be as candid as you may want to be. Yeah.
Thank you, Encore. One would be that you can amplify what we do, because we would like to find students after April 1st. So if you're a college counselor who's listening and you want to sign up to get our notifications for nominations, that will help, because that way when you have a student who's in front of you who you can't forget about, who doesn't have a viable financial aid offer by April 1st, you can nominate that kid to us. So I think the first thing would be to think about the students in your own community that you want to help. And I suppose the second thing would be we are young, we are a nonprofit, we are wanting to be sustainable into the future. If you want to invest in this idea and help us grow what we are doing, please consider a donation to us.
Wonderful.
You can go to secondchance.global. We have a donation page, and your donation will help us continue to offer the services that we do. It will help students as well. We do take care of flights sometimes, visas, gaps, summer housing for students. We do really work with
Wonderful.
really, really vulnerable students. For example, the 41 students that we worked with last year, 11 of them were refugees.
Okay.
5 of them were from Palestine, 2
Okay.
from Afghanistan, 2 from Ukraine, and 1 from Syria.
So you got them all scholarships to go to states and study?
Well, we got them full or near full scholarships to go and study in South Korea, Qatar, Canada,
Wow.
the United States, and Hong Kong. Those are the 5 countries that we are working with right now. So we work with some really, really vulnerable students. We want to be able to help kids who really are very talented and who just have no financial resources. You can also write to us if you have a specific talent. I want to thank you, Encore,
thank
because
you
you
so
have
much.
been such a staunch encourager and supporter of our work in spirit and also publicly, and you've really been an ally. Thank you. And thank you to the larger community for standing by us too. There's a lot of people I feel like who are in solidarity with us, and we wouldn't actually be here without that solidarity.
Because you are such a rare person to have. I mean, the work that you do is so inspiring at a global level. You could have the easy life. You could easily be working in a top school anywhere in the world. I mean, UWC in Singapore or UK or Turkey or whichever country do you choose to work with. I know, but you are doing this, and as somebody, and personally for me, as someone who really believes in what you said. I mean, the transformative impact of education and scholarship uh, is is life changing, and I've always been a deep admirer of your work. I mean, ever since that, and try to help and as much as I can. I mean, uh, in my own way. I mean, I have always said, and when I was thinking of, as I was telling you, when I was thinking of, we are here for Intersect, and this is a big conference that we are doing at Masters Union, and I said, we have to have Joan here because of the next 3 days we'll have at least 400 to 450 plus delegates, a lot of them career counselors. I mean, in India, career counseling itself is now catching up fast. I mean, and a lot of young people now taking up career counseling as a profession, and a lot of those times they are not sure of what does career counseling mean. Is it like just the routine paper pushing kind of a job, or is it really transformative role that they are getting into, which can impact so many lives? And as Masters Union, we are there for you. So I'm saying a lot of synergies at both personal and professional level that I believe we will have a lot of work to do together. And moving forward, we'll have more conversations and more of you coming to our campus. Thank you, Joan, for making it to Masters Union. Thank you for taking time out. We are looking forward to the next 3 days with you, and then subsequently, I'm sure more things are going to happen. More power to you, and thank you.